One of the more underrated game types from Halo's history has to be Firefight mode. It was introduced back in ODST as just kind of this extra thing to do, and it was really fun. And then in Halo Reach, they brought it back and expanded upon it, added it to matchmaking, added all these customization features as well. But it was always cool to have a game mode where you just needed to hold out as long as you could, and that was something we really liked about ODST specifically back in the day. Now, Firefight went away for a while. They did Spartan Ops Season 1. We never got Season 2, did we? And then they later brought Firefight mode back in for Warzone, and that was something that was really cool, but it's not really the classic Firefight experience that we knew and loved. So we knew we needed to at some point go back to Firefight mode and do a real Firefight challenge, despite the fact we're not that good at Halo. So what of course makes the most sense for us to try? Well, we're gonna try to survive 24 hours in Halo Firefight. And this is what happened. So as it turns out, as we were planning out this video, our original plan was we're going to go through, study some maps, and pick the best map possible where we can just kind of hold out and survive 24 hours on the clock. Not necessarily wave after wave, but we just wanted to make it 24 hours. We thought that'd be plenty of awesome content for a video. But actually, as it turns out, we knew about this glitch from Halo Reach on the level Courtyard, where you can just line a forklift up with this shield and use the crate to push it right through. Then just jump in the forklift and you're safe in there if you just hide around the corners. And honestly, we could just sit there for 24 hours, AFK, and we would have this challenge complete, and we'd be able to call this video 24 hours, but it wouldn't make for an interesting video, and it wouldn't be that much of a challenge, would it? Also, in Halo Reach, you can customize your firefight settings. You can just make your health invulnerable and give yourselves unlimited lives. So there, video done. Just kidding. So we went back to the drawing board and we came up with a different type of challenge, still around the concept of 24 hours. What if we went through and found spots in every single firefight map from Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach, and do whatever it takes to find a spot on every single map where we could survive 24 hours without getting killed? And honestly, it turned out being way more challenging than we had initially thought it would be, because sitting in the spawn doesn't work the way you think it would in all of these firefight levels. So first up, we had Courtyard figured out, but we still had a lot of levels to go. We were just going to continue on through Halo Reach and then make our way to ODST afterwards. Luke and I continued on to the level Glacier, and we're actually joined by Dim Entree from the Kikowani videos. And this was a level where we thought we were able to just stay in the spawn since there's such a long hallway section and a lot of doors. Now, we wanted to make sure we were really challenging ourselves and checking to make sure that whatever hiding spots we found were still actually protected against all types of enemies. So when testing Halo Reach, we actually turned every single skull on, went into legendary difficulty, and then changed the in-game modifiers to make sure that all of the AIs had enhanced hearing, enhanced vision, and leprechaun level luck. That's an actual setting in the game settings. We also changed the wave spawn order so that we were always having very challenging elites coming out so we could quickly test how well our hiding spots worked. We had things like jetpack elites, and we also would have other types of enemies that spawn in as well. So we really were trying our best to go the distance to see how well these hiding spots would work in Halo Reach. So with Glacier, the first hiding area that we thought would be so well protected honestly fell apart right away, because when an elite is aggroed towards you, they'll just run right through those doors and they'll automatically open for those elites, and then they're there and you can't do too much about it. So this ruled out the spawn area for this level right away, and we were kind of going to have to find a different solution for how we were going to pick this level apart. Fortunately enough though, after flying around for a while, we found this random corner in the back side of the level where we could all kind of hide behind this wall. And while the enemies were really aggressive, they only seemed to care if one of us was flying about and not in our hiding spot. Once we all went into the hiding spot, the enemies that were aggroed near us would just stand around and not come after us. And after testing it for a while, sure enough, this hiding spot actually worked out. So we managed to cross 2 levels off of our list, but then we went to Corvette, and this one just fell apart also. This level is such a small indoor section that there weren't a lot of options to even start with. The spawn area looked somewhat promising because we could hide indoors, but enemies will just rush in eventually, so it's definitely not something you could survive 24 hours in. Then we tried actually glitching outside of the map by jumping to the drop ships and having them push us through the shield doors. However, every time we tried this glitch, when we could get it to work nonetheless, we never could find an area outside of the map that didn't have a soft kill barrier. So unfortunately, at least as of now, we could not find a solution for the level Corvette, meaning that already this challenge was dead in the water. But we still had a ton of other levels to go, and we wanted to see maybe how well we could score and how many levels we could find potential hiding spots on, even if Corvette is this impossible level. We did bounce back and get some success though. On the level Overlook, Luke just yeeted himself out of the level and found this little sliver for some reason outside the map that didn't have a soft kill barrier on. So if we just all went out there and hid there together, we actually were safe there and no enemy would even come remotely close to us. Why this exists, we have no idea, but hey, we'll take it. On the level Waterfront, Bungie did a really concrete job at keeping the barriers on this map tight. So really there's no safe place you can go outside of the map to get cover. We spent a lot of time just looking for anything that we could hide behind or get behind or fly out of the map on, and we just couldn't find anything. And then as just a last ditch effort, almost as a joke, I thought, what if I try hiding underwater? And I mean, these enemies are really aggressive. They've just been shooting us so much, we put invulnerability on when we were exploring the maps. And sure enough, if you duck underwater, even if you're still sticking out from underwater, the enemies just can't see you somehow. And it was really funny just because we were pretty sure this would be another level we could not beat, but if we just toggle crouched and stayed in the water for 24 hours, yeah, you won't get shot at. The enemies just refuse to care. It's really funny. When we got to Holdout, we thought we were gonna have to do some weird glitch on top of the Phantom with armor lock because of past experiences getting out of the map in the campaign. So while Luke and I were trying to figure out the logistics of how we were gonna get armor lock and get on top of the Phantoms, Dim just managed to jetpack up to this area, and there's just another little square section with no kill barrier, and no enemy can get to you up here. So we felt like we achieved this as well. Outpost is another level that for some reason there's this little sliver of a section by the cliff where if you stand far enough over, the kill barrier won't affect you and you can stand there. We were a little bit worried hiding in this spot that enemies that have jetpacks would fly over to us. So of course we tested it with jetpack elites, and even with them being nearby, them being aggroed towards us, they just didn't care to look over. They probably just thought we slid off the cliff or something. I don't know, but still this spot actually worked as well. When we got to Beachhead, we tried a lot of different things. We tried glitching out of the map at first, that didn't work. And then we thought maybe it would be a good idea if we set up a warthog blocking the staircase up and seeing if we hid in this back corner up here if enemies wouldn't come up. It actually was looking really promising for quite some time, and we decided that this spot probably would work, but we wanted to just double check with spawning in some jetpack elites. We assumed since we were hiding so far back in the corner, they wouldn't be aggroed towards us, but sure enough, with their precise vision and hearing that is enhanced, they were able to find us, and this spot fell apart pretty quickly. Now, we did try looking everywhere else on the map that we could. We tried glitching through windows, we tried flying out of the map. Honestly, this is a very tight map as well, and the water mechanics are different from Waterfront, so it wasn't something we could just duck our heads underwater on like we kind of were hopeful for. So unfortunately, despite us trying really hard and spending a lot of time on this level, we couldn't find a solution for surviving on this level. So if any of you guys want to try this challenge, you can figure out this level and Corvette, we'd really appreciate it. So after all of that, Tails finally showed up just in time to do the 2 DLC levels with us. On Unearth, we were unsure what we were going to do. This level is such a huge firefight level, but we did find this section on the cliff. It doesn't quite work with 4 people. However, if you were by yourself or you were maybe with 1 other person, 2 people could squeeze in this corner and nothing will affect them. However, when you're flying around with 4 people, it gets kind of chaotic, and the other 2 people can probably find their own hiding spots in a similar area. However, the other 2 hiding spots are not as secure as the main hiding spot that only fits 2 people. And then we got to Installation 04, which by the way is a very great looking firefight map. We've never really talked about the firefight levels too much, but this one looks really good. And somehow we found this little broken area down on the cliff where you could just slide down or jetpack down, and you could just hang out down here forever. Nothing's gonna come and bother you. Just make sure you're not knocking your own teammates off the sides, and you actually are in a pretty safe area here. This one didn't take too long to find either, so we were feeling pretty good about ourselves with Halo Reach. Of course, there were 2 levels we couldn't find solutions for, but we were feeling pretty good nonetheless. So next we were jumping on to ODST, and fun fact, back in 2009, my mom pre-ordered Halo 3 ODST for me from a Hollywood video, so I got the pre-order bonus where I got to play as Sergeant Johnson, and you can bet that I played as Sergeant Johnson for this video. I'm pretty proud of that. Also, you might notice I changed my gamer tag for this video because I was tired of people mispronouncing Rocket Ja and saying Rocket John, so it's just Rocket Elijah, just my name. Okay. but ODST. And this one served to be much more of a challenge, and we had some heartbreaking moments along the way. Starting things off, we're on Crater, and this level was already a mess because we couldn't stay in the spawn area, though we had thought that maybe would be the only map that would work really well for that. Enemies can open the doors and just shoot in, so this one was already out right away. We did think there was a section with some crates in the back we could hide behind, but after doing some testing, it turns out hunters will just run up and knock the crates aside, and there goes your hiding spot. So nothing you could do here. We had known that there were glitches out of the map on Crater, so we decided to try to do an elevator glitch to get over the shield at the back of Crater. However, no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't find a way over the shield, and we couldn't seem to get enough momentum in our butterfly jumps to get high enough. What we later turned out is that this version of Crater is actually different from the campaign version of this area and the nighttime version of this area. The daytime version of Crater is actually built upon from Tayari Plaza, the campaign level that Buck plays on, where the nighttime version is built upon the whole story arc with the Rookie. So when we shifted to the nighttime version of the level, the butterfly glitch that we had heard rumors of and we had seen videos online of actually worked on this one, and we were able to get outside of the map, and I was able to walk around, and it turns out there's a huge section of the city still open up that you can just go walk around and explore. And I walked around for quite some time. I discovered some really creepy voices while everyone was spectating me. Nobody could hear them either. They thought I was crazy, so I quickly recorded it with my Xbox DVR, and sure enough, there's some weird voices that occasionally happen when you're outside of the map on this level, and I heard them later on when we were recording. I have no idea what they are. Super creepy, but nonetheless, I wanted to just mention that we had that experience. So depending on whether or not you want to count Crater day and night as two separate levels or just one level, we were able to find a spot that we would be safe in, which is anywhere outside of the map at night. However, the daytime version, we could not find an area for the life of us that would keep us alive. So if you're going to stay alive for 24 hours, you're going to have to stay alive for 24 hours at night. Lost Platoon is another one of those levels where there was another really weird instance. We thought that maybe if we could get up on the rocks, we could find an area where no enemy would aggro us. However, when we climbed all the way up to the rocks, the Wraith across the map still would shoot at us no matter what we tried to do, whether we tried to duck behind other rocks, anything like that. Now, we did find one little corner that you can hide behind that will be immune to the Wraith shots, and it is actually pretty safe. However, I found that if you walk just a little bit further, literally there's a difference of just a few feet here, the Wraith will actually not shoot at you because you're just slightly out of range. It was really interesting because on one side we had Luke in the hidey hole, which was pretty safe. We had Dim standing up on the cliff, and he was still getting shot at by the Wraith, but if he came over to where I was standing or he left the area, the Wraith would just stare at me and not shoot because I was just slightly out of the Wraith's radius range. Something really interesting, but yeah, there's definitely a way you could survive 24 hours here if you go all the way up on the rocks back here and you do some well-timed jumps to make your way up. On the level Rally Point, we were looking around for any type of place we could hide, and we found this little dark corner. It's just randomly there, but it's actually a solid place to hide. We were thinking it was going to lead us to an outside of the map glitch, but while we were trying to find a way outside of the map, we just realized the enemies weren't attacking us. So this one actually worked out pretty well here. Then we got to the level Windward, and Windward is a tricky one because there's really nowhere you can go where the enemy brutes won't just come up, until we realized there's this outside of the map glitch. And this one's definitely the hardest of any hiding spot to pull off correctly, and there is a bit of luck involved. And it took me a lot of trial and error to figure it out. I was the designated jumper, I guess, because I was the host and had the least latency. But essentially the main idea is if you get a fusion coil and you punch it while standing on top of it and walk backwards in the direction you want to go, you could do this different ways too, I guess, but this was the easiest way for me to do it. Sometimes the launch of the fusion coil is enough to break you past the ceiling, and if your trajectory just happens to be correct, you can land up on top of the upper platforms. So in general, the upper platforms, it's a pretty big open space, and it took me a ton of tries before I actually got up here, and you're mostly safe, but there's still one major issue. There is a Banshee that will shoot at you, and if you're going to take damage, it's not a safe place for 24 hours to stay on. So instead, I actually kept walking around, and I found this random room that has a door that opens up there, and when you walk in, there's not much to the room. It's a pitch black room, but if you stand in the back, the doors will shut and no enemy will ever get to you because you're well outside of the map. And this is actually one of the coolest hiding spots out of any of the ones ones we had looked at. On Security Zone, we had a couple of hiding spots we tried around with, but our main goal was to maybe try to find a way to glitch out of the map and get on top of the bridge on the left side. Then from there, find a place where maybe we could get some level of cover. Now on the left side, we didn't have a lot of success. There's a lot of random kill barriers. So when we eventually shifted over to testing out the right side, we had a little bit more luck finding ways around some of the kill barriers, but eventually I actually found this large floating area. I could just walk around and float and not have to worry about anything. And I found that if I hid in this specific corner, the enemies that would see me would either not aggro me, or in the case of buggers, the only enemy that would really be able to get to me, the main way they try to fly in to get to me was through one of the kill barriers. And the kill barrier actually applies to the buggers too. So they would just die in the process if one of them ever happened to fly close enough to me. And then going into Alpha Site, this level is really interesting. We thought at first we could maybe hide in the spawn at the beginning of this level, since the hallways were so long, but unfortunately enemies still rushed us. However, we did find this little sliver of an area inside one of the empty elevator shafts where you actually get the cover of all of the windows, and fortunately enough, enemies really can't get to you here. We're feeling pretty confident about this spot as well. And then after all of that, we were feeling pretty successful. Even though we couldn't find a good way to hide on Crater Day, we still got Crater Night, so we felt like we were kind of on a roll here. And then we got to the Data Hive level and kind of ruined everything. Unfortunately, with Data Hive, this level is just so large and it lets you go up and down everywhere. The enemy AIs are really programmed to be able to find you wherever you are in this level. Every time we found a spot we thought would work, an enemy would show up and it would break our spot. We were hoping maybe we could glitch through the barrier, but we didn't have any luck with that at all. So unfortunately, this level ended up being a bust. And then we had even more bad luck right afterwards, testing the final section from the campaign, that last level area. And we tried so many different things here because we know there's glitches in the campaign where you can backtrack a bit. But since this is Firefight and the level is built somewhat differently, there wasn't a lot of options we could do. We did try glitching out of the map in various places, but our main hope was that we could maybe break through the shield door barrier with a ghost and maybe get out on the highway and we'd have some safe area there. We spent a lot of time testing things out with ghosts, and finally, once we were able to break through that shield by just getting a lot of momentum, we realized that there's actually a kill barrier right inside of there. So if you push yourself far enough to break through the barrier, the level will just insta-kill you. So you're either close enough to slingshot you back into the level or just far enough to instantly get killed. This was pretty disappointing to say the least, but at the end of the day, we were pretty happy with the fact that out of all of the classic Halo Firefight levels from ODST and Reach, we were able to find hiding spots where you could survive 24 hours in on all except 4 levels. So hey, if you guys want to help us find those other 4 hiding spots, we would be happy if you guys could pull that off for us. But hey, if you liked this video, can you take a quick moment first? Double check you are in fact subscribed down below with notifications on. It helps us out a lot. We get to do more stuff like this, and that's cool. Also, if you want to talk with us on Twitter, you can follow me at Rocket Elijah, and you can also follow Luke at Rocket Sloth Luke. So feel free to follow us on there and communicate with us a bit. We would kind of appreciate it. But otherwise, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all next time.